Welcome back. Another episode of the Empty Gym podcast. As always, I'm Jack Hobson, joined again by Adam Pollard and Mikey Terzakis. And boys, we had one hell of a Saturday this weekend, headlined by Purdue Arizona matchup of the then number one team in the country and number three team in the country. Purdue coming out with the 92-84 win. We did have boots on the ground there. I was in attendance with Pops there at Cambridge Fieldhouse, and this game was really surprising to me. I was not expecting that for Purdue to win, and granted, like it's not like he had a bad game, but I feel like Zach Edey was not the story of this game, and I thought if Purdue was going to come out with a win, they were going to be, but these guards for Purdue really just tore it up all game for the Boilermakers.
Yeah, first off, I mean, what a Saturday. I think we had 17 out of the 25 AP top 25 teams in action. So it was definitely like this it's officially college basketball season. So it was very good to see. Jack, I did want to bring this up especially for the Purdue Arizona game. Um, Purdue was up 15 points. Tommy Lloyd decides to go to a 2-3 zone. Purdue committed 5 turnovers in 6 minutes, and the lead was down to 4. What are your thoughts there? Because I have gone out and said I'm a huge 2-3 zone guy. Jack is not. So what are your thoughts there?
I hate the zone. I think it's a coward's way of defense. In certain situations, obviously at the collegiate level, it's a different story. My biggest gripe against the zone is like youth teams running the zone. If you can run it with principles inside of it, I'm okay with that. And Arizona did that well. Because at the collegiate level, it's a zone, but like almost every 2-3 zone is like a matchup zone in college to an extent, a little bit. But you're right. Purdue did struggle immensely against the zone. Gave Arizona a chance to get back into it. Which like it's kind of funny too. It's like usually you go to a zone when you're trying to keep people out of the middle and out of the paint and everything and force them to shoot threes. And Purdue was hitting everything from three, so I was a little bit interested in why they went to the zone, but it worked, and Purdue's guards were all out of flux. At the same time, though, it does make sense a little bit because Purdue is such a set heavy team, and like probably had a game plan of sets going into this game, and you throw a zone at them, and that kind of takes them out of everything that they usually do, which is run a set like damn near like 75% of the time. So I guess it does make sense a little bit to try to do that to Purdue, but the guards did not handle that very well uh, in that stretch where where Arizona went zone. But when they were going man, they were getting everything. It was driving kicks, pull ups, everything like ball screen, two dribble pull up, mid range jumper was going down for Braden Smith and Fletcher Loyer. Fletcher had well, both of them did. They had 20. Fletcher had 27 and Braden had 26. Fletcher had 20 in the first half, I think, is what he ended up with, something like that. But yeah, those guards for them just went crazy, but the zone did mess them up a little bit for sure.
I just loved seeing the 2-3 zone get some national recognition again now that Jim Boeheim is no longer coaching at Syracuse. So it was very awesome to see the 2-3 zone in play.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My,
just difficult to get the game. I had to pay the $5 on Peacock to get it. I had to scramble, make that move real quick during the game. So I didn't see a whole lot of it. But looking at the stat sheet, Purdue, 3 guys made up a bulk of the scoring. We talked about deficiencies in Purdue is that if Zach Edey isn't on his A game, then Purdue's in trouble. And they kind of proved that theory wrong with the way Braden Smith and Fletcher Loyer played, just shooting the 3 well, commanding the game. Purdue kind of showed that they can win in multiple ways. And when you have the best player in the country and you have 2 other guys that could help you win a game, you got to be the favorites for the national championship, in my opinion.
Yeah, we've seen it out of Braden Smith a lot more consistently this year. He's still not quite to the consistency that you'd want for starting Big Ten point guard. And Fletch, like we've seen spurts of it. Like was it the Marquette game where he went off? I think for Fletcher, and there's one other game where he went off this year, but he's kind of been a little bit more up and down, but the ups are really high, and this was another example of that. Going five for 9 from three. Braden did have those 4 turnovers, which obviously a couple of those came from when Arizona went zone. But yeah, we talked about this also. It's a little scary too because I feel like we had the same conversation, Adam, when they came out of Maui and we're like, oh, these guards might be turning the corner, and then the Northwestern game happened. So it's just like
it's hard to judge it, you know?
Yeah, it's just you're very hesitant to kind of go all in on them. Like the next 2 games, they have Jacksonville and Eastern Kentucky to close out non-conference, but so those should be easy wins, obviously. But the Maryland game on the road, first conference game of like the full slate, besides those early December games, and like I could easily see them losing on the road to Maryland at the same time. Like I want to go all in on this Purdue team, but after what happened after Maui or after the Maui Invitational with the Northwestern game, it's like just a little hesitant to go all in on them. But they keep trying to prove me wrong, but still just a little bit hesitant to go all in on them.
I think this Purdue team's starting to give me, and this is a little premature, but they're starting to give me a 2019 Virginia vibe in the sense that, I know this is premature. I know UVA wound up winning the national championship, but people are hesitant to buy in on Purdue, despite the fact that they won a loaded Maui. They pretty much commanded 40 minutes against who we thought was no doubt the best team in the country in Arizona. They have so many good wins. They have one loss right after Maui, which obviously we talked about preseason tournament hangovers. It happens to a bunch of teams. I mean, it happened to Villanova, and this Purdue team has one of the most impressive resumes. Their guards are clearly vastly improved. I know I was a little critical of them, but Braden Smith, the last 2 games against Bama and Arizona, he's averaging 26.5 points and shooting a combined 18 of 35 from the field in those 2 games. So, I mean, if he's even half of that, and you have Lawyer shooting the 3 well, Edey's going to drop 20 and 10 pretty much every game guaranteed. I think this Purdue team has to be the national championship favorite. I know there's a little hesitancy because of the inconsistency of the guards, but I mean, you look at the resume, it checks out.
Yeah, it definitely does. They definitely have a ton of great wins. This one probably being maybe the top one. It's hard to decide with all those Maui games, but I mean, like obviously this was technically a neutral site, wasn't really. It was in Indianapolis, and with the boots on the ground, I did see approximately, I'd say like 85% of the arena was Purdue, about 10% was Arizona, and then about 2.5% each for Indiana State and Ball State, which was the game before. So they had some fans there too, but they were probably all rooting for Purdue too. But I'm excited to kind of see how this team reacts on the road as well, because they do have a lot of great neutral site wins. They do have obviously this like kind of neutral site, kind of home game win. But I think Northwestern might be their only road game so far this year. Yeah, it is. So the big thing for me, like in going all in on them, is seeing how they play on the road against a good team, because and seeing mostly how the guards play on the road against a good team, because I mean that's just like, especially with all these Big Ten environments and everything like that, like it does make a huge difference playing at home or playing on the road, especially in a conference like the Big Ten with a ton of great environments throughout the conference. So That's kind of where my hesitancy's coming a little bit too, is just trying to see how these guys react uh, if they go down 8 or something on the road, and how they bounce back from that. How they bounce back if Edie's not playing a great game, which they did a good job of that in this game against Arizona. Because obviously, like I said, he ended up with 22-9. But if you watched it, like, kind of had to work pretty hard for those 22, when usually that comes a little effortlessly to him. So I think the next step is seeing them on the road. Maryland will be a tough test in a sense. I mean, Maryland not that great this year, but and then that game will be over break too, so they won't really have to deal with the students that much. But so I'm excited to see them on the road in the Big Ten, and kind of see how the guards adjust to that as well.
And I think there's still some question marks. I know Jack, you've been all over it all season with the Purdue team with their 4-man. It seems like Coach Painter's kind of given the minute advantage to Mason Gillis off the bench. He had 21 minutes, and Trey Kaufman ran only had 15, but he did start. They pretty much had the same production. But it looks like that Mason Gillis is getting that minute advantage though.
And I think Gillis is better too, like better for what they need, better player overall. I think Kaufman Wren's a little bit more athletic, which is kind of what they were like hoping that he could blossom into something. I think he's only a sophomore, so like he's still got time, but I think they're trying to hope for like a more dynamic, like wing type at the 4, which like hopefully is somewhat of an offensive threat, which really hasn't happened with Trey Kaufman Wren at all. But I think with Gillis, they're just a much more productive lineup. So we'll see if they make that switch at all. Obviously, like you said, and for a vet too, like Gillis, like I don't know how much starting matters to him either. Like if it's more important to keep the younger guys' confidence up by keeping them in the starting lineup, and he doesn't realize maybe that he's not playing as many minutes. He's just happy that he gets to go through the handshake line at the beginning of the game. Just let him do that, and like Gillis get more minutes or whatever. But I think they're just a much more efficient lineup with Gillis on the floor, both offensively and defensively. Defensively, they played solid. I thought that okay. I mean, Arizona's a very good offense. Keshad Johnson had like 25, 26, something like that. Caleb Love had like 29. So they kind of gave up a lot to those two guys, but there were spurts where Arizona looked like they could just not score, not take care of the ball either. Uh, Purdue had a lot of fast break points, which usually isn't necessarily their game. They're kind of more of a like they're very efficient offense, but not a huge tempo offense. So it was interesting to see them kind of get more steals and more fast breaks and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just not to beat a dead horse, but just kind of like obviously they've taken care of their schedule for the most part, besides Northwestern. But uh, excited to kind of see them go through more of a gauntlet in the Big Ten, and at the same time, like they've kind of already been through a gauntlet in their non-conference. So uh, it's more so just seeing them on the road, I guess, for me is what I'm excited for. But uh, who knows what's going to happen with them? Like you said, Adam, I think that 4-man is going to come in. Obviously, we saw it with Keshad Johnson going off against them. They didn't really have an answer for him at all. So we'll see with some of the dynamic like 4-men and wings that the Big Ten has to offer, how they are able to kind of combat that. But Purdue right now definitely looks like the best team in the country, but there's still some questions about it, which makes it kind of fun. Like there's not like a standalone best team in the country, or standalone like team above everyone else in the country right now, or even 2 or 3. I think it's pretty wide open to it in a sense, but
Do you
definitely
think? Sorry to interrupt. Do you
no.
think Purdue's the best team in the country, or where would you rank them?
I think you got to say Purdue's the best team in the country right now, just with the wins they have and everything like that. But it's more so like the confidence that I have in them moving forward. But like if you say right now who's playing the best in the country right now, I think it's got to be Purdue. But anything else on this game you guys want to talk about?
No, I think we pretty much covered it.
Mike?
Nah. Good effort from the Boilermakers.
All right. Let's move on to the CBS Sports Classic. The second game, Kentucky-Carolina. Kentucky came out with the 87-83 win. We're able to hold on after Carolina was trying to kind of make a run at the end of the game. Kentucky was up by about like 6-8. It felt like the whole like last 5 minutes or so, and Carolina kept trying to make pushes but couldn't quite come away with it. Kentucky came out with a big neutral site win.
Yeah, and I think that Kentucky has definitely solidified themselves as of having the best freshman class as far as performing on the court this year. I mean, DJ Wagner had 14, Bradshaw 12, Dillingham 17 off the bench, and then Reed Shepherd 11 points. And the kind of question that was had for Kentucky this year was, it's a super young team. Calipari's going back to his, let's just load up on the freshman class in what feels like clearly has been a transfer portal era now where the experience of guys has been super beneficial for a lot of teams now. And but this Kentucky team just beat a fairly veteran and experienced North Carolina team, because there are still players on the UNC team from the national championship runner-up team with Baycott and Davis.
Yeah, and just going off that, like that's a great Carolina team. I think adding Cormac Ryan and Harrison Ingram have been fantastic for North Carolina. I think they fit the offense perfectly. But that game right there between Carolina and Kentucky kind of just showed to me that those two teams are both good enough to go to a Final Four. That game just gave me kind of a similar vibe to the CBS Sports Classic in 2017. That game where Malik Monk went for 47. That game just had a similar energy. Obviously, it was different because that game was like the final score was like 101-100, but it just had that type of energy, like back and forth offense, fast pace, just like great gritty blue blood basketball. That's what we've been waiting for out of both of these programs. I just feel like Calipari's finally back to his ways with, as you said, Javi, getting freshmen, developing them throughout the year, and getting them ready to take on the load of minutes for Kentucky. And then Carolina's kind of just found their flow. Obviously, Caleb Love wasn't a good fit. They're getting RJ Davis the majority of shots for the guard play. Just a great game overall. And Kentucky showed that they're Final Four good. I think Carolina did as well.
Yeah, RJ ended up with 27. Cormac Ryan with 20 for North Carolina as well. Big play in that game. I think Carolina was down 3, I want to say, with about like 15 seconds left or so, and call timeout, get a play set up and everything. And Cormac Ryan's going down on the right side to set what looked to be like a pin down or a stagger or something. For I can't remember who was in the crowd. I think it might have been.
I think it was for RJ Davis.
Yeah, I think it was for Davis. Yeah, because Cadeau had the ball and just passed it to no one really. I mean, technically to Cormac Ryan, but it hit him in the back and then went out of bounds. So like that a freshman moment for him there that like we talked about like in that Tennessee game where he had no my watch sorry where he had 10 assists. Like he didn't really score the ball that much, but he had 10 assists and no turnovers. So I mean like Cadeau's gonna have these freshman moments, and I think that'll make him better throughout the year. But we do know that he is human a little bit, I guess. The scoring hasn't really come like Carolina's probably hoped so far, but he's done a great job of playing the point guard spot. Just had a tough break to end that Kentucky game, but for Kentucky, Dillingham had 17 off the bench. DJ Wagner had 14. Bradshaw had 12 points as he's kind of starting to get back or come back in and get situated and get comfortable with this Kentucky team. One of the many 7-footers that has been out for them and is now finally starting to come back a little bit. So I think him too with Bradshaw, like the more he plays and the better he gets, it's just even raises the ceiling even higher for Kentucky as they get more size and rim protection that they didn't really have at the start of the year. But like you said, Mike, I think both these teams look really good, but Kentucky was the one that came out on top. But Carolina, I don't think has anything to be upset about either.
No, I don't think Carolina has anything to be upset about. I think you can take positives from both teams out of this. Um, I'm not entirely sold on UNC quite yet as like a Final Four caliber team. This is not Duke bias here. I just think that I need to see more bench production and bench efficiency from North Carolina because, I mean, a huge majority of their minutes are all starters, and there's not too much bench production and like a guy off the bench who can come in and fill in a role if someone gets in foul trouble. So that's kind of why I'm just hesitant on them, but I still think they played a very good game and definitely could have came out with a win here.
Yeah, I think off the bench, Seth Trimble was a guy that I was really hoping would take a step forward, and we just really haven't quite seen that yet. I think if he does take that step forward and be, like you said, Adam, be that guy who can come off the bench if someone's not playing good or if someone's in foul trouble between like Davis, Cadeau, and Ingram, uh, kind of that backcourt a little bit, or Cormac Ryan as well. Uh, if he can be able to step up when they need him, like I said, if someone's not playing good or if someone's in foul trouble, then that takes Carolina's team to a whole nother level. But yeah, I do understand the hesitancy there with kind of the lack of bench production and everything, because we really just haven't quite seen that yet from them. But if that can come for them, then I think the sky's the limit for Carolina. But
Oh
we
yeah,
haven't
absolutely.
quite seen it yet.
Yeah. I think it's a long season, though. I think Trimble's going to get more opportunities. There's going to be games where someone does get in foul trouble and he comes in. Maybe he steps up and has like a 15-point game. A lot of time to develop. A lot of time for like other freshmen off the bench to get a chance for Carolina too. But just based off their starting five, they look very good and they look like they play very well as a unit. So I think Carolina. I may jump the gun a little bit on the Final Four caliber team, but they look like they're definitely getting back in the NCAA tournament. I can say that for sure.
Yeah, and I don't think it's jumping the gun too much. Like I think what you see here is a team that can make the Final Four if a couple more things get figured out. Like they've shown that the starting lineup is capable of being one of the best in the country, and if that bench production can just come up just a little bit more, then they're a team that. And also at the same time, we have we have no idea who's making the Final Four now because you don't know.
Yeah.
Obviously, how they're going to play the rest of the year. Injuries could happen, and then even up to that point, you can have a team playing its best basketball of the year, and then they just get a tough draw. So there's so many things that can factor into it, which makes it so much fun to follow, and can be frustrating though at times. If, like, for example, I had Arizona winning my bracket last year, and they lost to Princeton because I thought they were playing the best basketball. I thought they were playing their best basketball at the right time, and then they just run into a Princeton team that was hot from three one day. So it's like that's the best part about this whole sport and how we decide a champion is how unpredictable it is. So it's tough to obviously say who's Final Four good now and who isn't, especially now. But even after the selection show comes out, you don't even know. So there's so many factors that go into that makes it so fun. But I think both these teams, if everything goes right for them, are definitely capable of making the Final Four. And I think, like we said, with Kentucky, it even comes with their starters, just getting a little bit more out of them. Wagner's played solid. DJ Wagner, the freshman with Justin Edwards has been okay, been on and off a little bit, and then you got Reed Shepherd, who's been at times like looked like their best player, and then at times like looks like definitely just a freshman. Like that's just kind of what you're going to deal with Kentucky. Also, it's like they can look like the best team in the country at some points, and then at some points maybe all those freshman moments happen at the same time, and it just crumbles for them in a game. But I think both these teams are teams that got some things to improve, some things to develop, but are on the right path for sure. But Definitely a fun game, a very highly contested game. But like I said, Kentucky came out on top in this one. But anything else on this one?
I got nothing.
All right. What were some of your guys' favorite games? I'll let you guys pick what you want to talk about.
I like the
mean,
Creighton Alabama game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great game.
Yeah. What's the kid's name? Sears. With that half court shot that just went in and out.
Did you see the picture of how close it was to going in?
Yeah, that looked like it was halfway down almost.
It pretty much was. Just had
Yeah.
too much spin on it.
Yeah, but yeah, Mark Sears for them had 19 points, struggled a little bit from three, but he looks like their offense would get a little stagnant sometimes when he had the ball. I felt like there was a couple possessions there, or probably more than a couple, where it felt like they had good actions and stuff, didn't quite get anything out of them, and then Sears would get the ball back with like 12 or 13 seconds on the shot clock and basically just dribble around and put up a shot, and sometimes he'd make it and it would work out fine, but sometimes he didn't. For Creighton, Alexander had 22, Shire 20, Kalkbrenner 19. That's the big three for them pretty much. Ashworth had 12. Still hoping to get a little bit more out of him if I'm Creighton. I think that it will take time a little bit. Obviously, like getting up to another, like going from Utah State in the Mountain West to up to Big East and playing against a schedule like this. But I think this game says a lot more about Alabama than it does Creighton in a sense of I think Alabama has had obviously a really tough schedule, played a lot of good teams. So you'd like to bring out a couple of them and not be 6-4 at this point, but I think they're a team that's going to be just fine going through. And I think also we haven't really seen the best out of Grant Nelson yet, the transfer from North Dakota State. So I think if he can start to really get rolling and be kind of like I think they thought he could be like a Dalton Connect type for Alabama, not necessarily to his level of production, but a player like that. But if they can get a little bit more out of him, I think Alabama could be a really good team. But Creighton, the offense is always going to be there for them too.
Yeah, I think you're right with how this says more about Alabama than Creighton. Because Alabama dealt with foul trouble the entire game. They shot 4 for 21 from 3, and they were on the road against the number 8 team in the country and lost by a missed 3. So I guess looking at it, flipping to the Creighton side, if Creighton would have dropped this game, this would have been their second loss in a row because they did lose to UNLV 3 days prior. This wasn't really a question that we had at the start of the season, but I feel like we're starting to see how the absence of Ryan Nembhard is affecting Creighton. Because at the beginning of the season, Trey Alexander was doing a great job. He's still doing a very good job, but I feel like you're starting to see the absence of him, and I think we're going to find out really quick because they play Nova next, and then they go play at Marquette. So I think we're going to start to learn a lot more about Creighton, but I'm starting to feel like I see the absence of Ryan Nembhard at Creighton.
Absolutely. You know, it's tough to replace a guy like that. Obviously, they tried to do so with Stephen Ashworth, and Stephen Ashworth's done a pretty good job so far, but it's just such a different Stephen Ashford's such a different point guard than Ryan Nembhard because he's more of like a combo guard where he's going to take the most 3-pointers for your team like he did with Utah State. But now he's really got to distribute the wealth with Shireman and Alexander and even try and get Kalkbrenner a bunch of touches. I agree. I think we've seen a struggle with that. I think another thing that really hurts Creighton is just the lack of depth. I mean, they have a little more depth now with Miller and Farabella taking some strides, but there's just not a lot of depth, especially with bigs. And we saw that in the first half with Kalkbrenner going down with that foot injury. Really, really hurt them in the first half. So that's another issue with Creighton. But going off what you said, Hobby, with Alabama, yeah, they played a really tough schedule and they played teams tough. I mean, they played Purdue down to the last possession. They played Creighton down to the last possession in Omaha, which is a really tough environment. I think Bama's got an even harder test with Arizona on Wednesday. But I think this Alabama team's going to be fine. You know, obviously they brought together a ton of transfers with a ton of talent. I think it's just going to take some time for them to mesh well together and learn how to play together. But yeah, I mean, Bama obviously would have loved to take one or two of those wins. They didn't, but they're going to get plenty of opportunities to pick up quality wins in the SEC.
Yeah, I think this Alabama team almost gives Arkansas team type of vibe with all the transfers they have, and like how it's kind of going to be a struggle in November and December, trying to get everyone to get situated, get everything figured out, and then all of a sudden you're going to look up in March and they're going to be playing, or in February, and they're going to be playing their best basketball going into March. So yeah, I wouldn't be too worried about Alabama. Creighton. One thing that I would be worried about for them, the offensive rebounding. They do play a generally smaller lineup with those three guards in Kalkbrenner. And I think they gave up like 17 or 18 offensive rebounds, something like that, to Alabama. So Alabama was just dominating the glass, especially in the second half. Felt like they were getting offensive rebounds almost like every other possession. Which really kept them in that game, especially like you said, Adam, with how poorly they shot from three. So that's something for Creighton. It's got to be, you can't just rely on Kalkbrenner for that. It's got to be kind of a group collective effort. The guards got to go in and rebound a little bit. So that's one thing to be a little bit concerned about. But Creighton, like I said, the offense is always going to be there for them. The defense, with how good they are offensively and fast breaks and stuff like that, and transition, I'd like to see them force more turnovers. I think they might be dead last in the country in forcing turnovers, which for a team that wants to play as fast as they do, not a great recipe for success. Obviously, you can create transition opportunities off of misses and stuff like that, but turnovers, live ball turnovers especially, is really how you get a lot of those fast breaks started. So I'd like to see them force a little bit more turnovers with their defense. But both teams, I think, again, are in a fine spot. Creighton really needed a win coming off that UNLV loss, and they got it. Probably would have liked to win by a little bit more, been a little bit more comfortable with it, but Alabama was a really good team too. So I think both teams got good stuff out of this one as well as these last two games that we've talked about. But Creighton comes out with the win on this one. But anything else from this game from you guys?
Yeah, Hobby, real quick, just going off what you said with Creighton's inability to force turnovers. Their turnover percentage, I don't know, what does KenPom go by, like per 100 possessions?
Probably something like that, yeah.
Something like that. Either way, they're like 362nd in turnover percentage in forcing turnovers, and their steal percentage is also 362nd. So bottom of the barrel when you want to move quick, you need to force some turnovers. So
yeah, just not getting those fast break opportunities like they'd like.
Yeah.
I guess another game from Saturday, kind of a more surprising one. Michigan State dominates Baylor. Baylor looked like they were really starting to get in a stride. They were 9-0, I think, coming into this game. Jacoby Walter was playing good. Ray J. Dennis was playing good. Then Michigan, Tyson Walker kind of went off for them. When they shoot the ball well, obviously you can say this about a lot of teams, but when Michigan State shoots the ball well, I really do think they're one of the best teams in the country, and we just haven't really seen that much from them this year so far. But they did it well against Baylor, and the defense was there against Baylor, and they ended up beating them by 24 in Detroit.
Yeah, and I kind of saw this coming. I felt like at some point Michigan State was going to get a very good win against a good team, and then on the flip side, I felt like Baylor was going to show that maybe they're not a top 10 team in the country. I think Michigan State started out in like a 27-4 run or something crazy like that, and Tyson Walker had at least 20 points in the first half. I guess I was also looking at it. We've kind of monitoring it. Only 8 minutes played for Xavier Booker, but I guess they didn't need it. But that is something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and just going off Tyson Walker. Tyson Walker has been one of the best point guards in the country this year. He's kind of been undershadowed because of Michigan State's underperformance, but he's averaging almost 21 points a game for Sparty. He's been the one good thing about Michigan State. AJ Hogarth had a good game with 14 points. That was encouraging because he was off to a really slow start, but still not really a ton of production from Jordan Akins and Matty Sissoko. Obviously, they didn't really need it. They weren't really pressing because they led the whole game by like 20 plus, but very good win for Michigan State. I think they're going to start to trend in the right direction. We all know this team is going to turn the corner at some point in the season. Tom Izzo's too good of a coach to underperform this poorly the entire season. At some point, Michigan State was going to turn the corner, get hot, and I feel like they just needed a really good win against a really good team to kind of do that. So now that they have this win against Baylor, I'm looking for them to get hot and rack off like six out of 7 out of 8 in the win column.
Yeah, they like you said, we were kind of just waiting for that that turn of the corner for Michigan State a little bit. Hadn't quite seen it this year, but knew it was coming at some point. They do close out. They got 3 more non-conference games, one coming tonight. And 2 of these aren't easy either. Oakland is a really good team out of the Horizon League. I can't remember what the kid's name is.
They got Rocket Watts.
Oh, they do have Rocket Watts. Yeah, I forgot about that. So they got Rocket Watts, former Michigan State Spartan. And they got some kid who's like one of the best shooters in the country, whose name escapes me right now. But I remember that from when Illinois played Oakland earlier. But Oakland's a tough team that they play tonight that they can't take lightly. Then they got Stony Brook. Should be a pretty easy win there. But they close out the non-conference season with Indiana State. And Indiana State's a really good team, I think. They got that, what is that kid's name?
They call him the Nikola Jokic of college basketball.
Robbie Avila, the next Jokic. So, I mean, like, that's this game tonight and the game, it looks like a week from Saturday against Indiana State, will not be easy non-conference wins either. So, like, if they can get those, I mean, Indiana State and KenPom is 53rd. So, like, that would be
16 in the net right now.
16, you said?
16.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a quad 1 win at home against Indiana State. So, it's like they're not a bad team by any means. So, these 2 games are 2 of these next 3 games are big for them to go into conference with some momentum. And I think it's kind of good, too, that they're playing some solid teams and kind of not really take the foot off the gas or anything like that. Like you're going to have to keep playing good against Oakland tonight and then Indiana State in a couple weeks before they get into the Big Ten stretch. But I think it's going to be – I think this might be the game that could help Michigan State turn the corner, but they're going to have to keep showing it consistently. The defense has been there a lot this year, but the offense not so much at times, especially with the poor shooting and stuff like that. So it would be encouraging to see Hogarth have another good game or 2 over this next stretch. Akins, you really want him to get going. Malik Hall, you'd like to see a little bit more production out of him. So these would be some nice, like, should be wins, but still gonna have to play hard and have to play your starters a lot of minutes to get them. So I think that's a good stretch for Michigan State to kind of gain some confidence going in the Big Ten. But Baylor also, like, don't want to overreact to this one. They shot the ball really poorly, which I don't think will happen a ton for them. Like you said, Adam, I don't know if, like, they might not be a top 10 team right now. I think this kind of showed that they might not be there yet. I think as Jacoby Walter keeps improving, they could get to that point, but hadn't really faced a ton of tough tests. Like, they've had a couple good games, but not a ton of tough tests. So this was a big one for them to get a Michigan State team that was really in dire need of a big non-conference win. So wouldn't be too worried if I'm Baylor either, but obviously you don't want to be on the other end of a 24-point game, no matter who the opponent is and where it is. But yeah, I think the big story here is Michigan State really turning the corner.
Yeah, real quick, you mentioned Indiana State, so real quick, I think that the Valley could possibly be a 2-bid league this year.
I think
because
so.
you have to, like, Drake is a good team. Indiana State is a good team, and they're very efficient. I mean, like I said, they're 16th in the net right now. If I think that you could very well like put both those teams in the tournament. I mean, the only thing is lack of resume wins, but if Indiana State can pick this one off against Michigan State, like you could very well be seeing two Valley teams, and then who knows, Bradley Braves could go and win Arch Madness. You never know, but I think that they could be a 2-bid league this year.
Yeah, I think if Indiana State doesn't win, obviously we have to see what happens in league play and everything. But I think if Indiana State doesn't win the conference tournament, they could for sure get an at-large bid. Bradley, do you want to just turn this into the Valley Minute?
Yeah, Bradley's having a tough month. I don't think we've won a game this month.
Yeah, Bradley's struggling
but
right
they
now.
did visit the Football Hall of Fame today. So maybe Coach Worrell's like, let's just get some firepower in here, some motivation. There was a picture of Malavi Lyons wearing it looked to be, I think, a Minka Fitzpatrick jersey. I could be wrong, though. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they were there. I think Coach Worrell's kind of brewing something up there.
Yeah. They Connor Hickman's been out, I think, the last couple games. So hasn't been great for them either. But yeah, Bradley, our boys back home are struggling a little bit. So hoping that they can get it turned around because I think they can be a really good team. We saw it in November too, with that.
They're 6-0.
Road win in overtime against UAB. Tough home win in overtime against Utah State.
Beat Tulane.
Beat Tulane on a neutral floor. So we've seen what Bradley can be, but
we will always have that one top 25 vote in November.
that will always be there. That will always be there. But yeah, the Braves.
They do have SIUE at Carver on the 21st, I believe, so in 3 days. So that should be hopefully that's a get right win after we visit the Football Hall of Fame. I have a feeling we're gonna look back at the in March when Bradley's in the Final Four and be like, this all started when Coach Worrell took him to the Canton Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that'll be the moment we look back on. But I'll just do a quick run through on some of these other games from Saturday. Kansas squeaks out a win at IU. IU looked like they were in control of that for a while. Kansas able to come back down as many as I think like 13 in the second half and able to come back and get a win. Memphis gets a close win against Clemson, hands them their first loss of the year. Ohio State, the other game in the CBS Sports Classic, gets a big neutral floor win over UCLA. They're kind of starting to look for real. Houston holds off Texas A&M. A&M was trying to make a big comeback. Wade Taylor at 34. They were able to hold them off and win by 4. Dayton, the Flyers, shout out Ronnie.
Shout out Ronnie.
They get a big win in one of the battles of Southwest Ohio, beating Cincinnati on the road by 14. Some other game. Tennessee, 9-point win over NC State. St. Mary's, my boys in the WCC. Big double overtime win against UNLV. Texas beating LSU by 11. TCU handles Arizona State by 20.
Rematch of round 64 game last year.
Yep.
Arizona State stinks.
Yeah, they do stink. But yeah. Anything from those other Saturday games that really stuck out to you guys?
Yeah. So that Kansas Indiana game. I want your guys' thoughts on this, but I think Kevin McCullough Jr. might be the best player on Kansas.
I think he might be too.
Yeah.
I mean, DeJuan Harris, I think he's kind of the engine in a sense. Like he kind of gets things going for them. But also McCullough, when Harris isn't playing well, McCullough's done a good job of kind of taking over the reins from that standpoint. Hunter's just going to be Hunter. Like he's going to be who he is. He's like I don't know what else to say about him, but he doesn't really impact Kansas as much. Like as a 5 people on the floor
team. He just puts
up
numbers.
Yeah, yeah. But McCullough, I think, has been like their best overall player for sure this year.
Yeah, and just going off that, I think you find out who your best player is or who your guy is, who your rock is in a game like that where you're down pretty much the whole game, where you're trying to will a comeback. The guy that stepped up was Kevin McCullough. 21 points despite 3 of 11 from the field against Indiana. How that's possible, 13 to 16 from the line, huge free throws down the stretch to ice it out. Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with what you said, Adam. I think Kevin McCullough is their guy. I know, obviously, Hunter Dickinson's super talented. He's averaging a double-double. That's great. But when Kansas needed buckets down the stretch, Kevin McCullough was making big-time plays, as well as Juwan Harris. But I think, late in the game, you need a big shot, you need a big three. You're looking at Kevin McCullough to make the last shot of the game. So,
Yeah,
I agree with what you said.
yeah, for sure. Anything else from Saturday?
I guess yes. Sticking with that same game, I think Indiana is like showing that they can be a spoiler team in March.
Oh, for sure.
That's if they make it there. But I think you're starting to see the development of Mackenzie Mbako. One thing that I think can elevate them for sure is Gabe Cupps is in the starting lineup. He's like averaging, I think, like 33 minutes a game, but he's putting up like 2 points a game. Like he's averaging that. I feel like he needs to get more shots. Like he was 1 for 4 from the field in the Kansas game and 0 for 1 from 3-point line. He's a very good 3-point shooter. I feel like if you can get him some more shots, that this Indiana team can be elevated a little bit.
Yeah, and that 1 3-point attempt came at the buzzer, so it was like a volleyball line, almost half court heave. So not really counting there either, honestly. But yeah, I think if Cupps starts to kind of start to knock down threes, Galloway, you saw him hit a couple for Indiana, but I do think that Mbako, Renew, and Khalil Ware are really starting to kind of figure out how to play with each other a little bit. It still sucks that I think Mbako could be so good at the 4, but Renew can't play the 5 and can't play the 3 really. Like he's not really tall enough to play the 5, but kind of doesn't really have the body to play the 3. And then Khalil Ware obviously is playing the 5. Like he's not playing anywhere else. So it's like Mbako's kind of stuck in that 3-man role, which like I just does not really work for him. And he, like, bless his heart, he's doing all he can to figure it out. But I think they could utilize him so much better if their roster was constructed a little bit differently. But they're starting to try to figure it out a little bit. But yeah, like you said, I think especially with those guys, with none of the 3 of them being any type of a threat from 3. I mean, Renew hit, I think, 1 during that run they had to start off the game, which part of that's just kind of assembly hall magic. Like the fact that 3 went in, like, of course it's against Kansas when they're coming in as the number 2 team in the country that he somehow finds a way to hit a 3. But yeah, I think you're going to need Galloway and Cupps to start hitting perimeter shots to kind of relieve some of that pressure from the inside. And this has been a problem with Indiana for years, which it's funny because you have Indiana, which is supposed to be like the purest basketball state in the world, and they can't find a shooter on their roster to save their life the last like 5 years. So a little bit of irony there, but yeah, Cupps and Galloway. Cupps, I think, especially needs to start kind of hitting some shots, knocking down some threes to give them at least alleviate a little bit of pressure from the inside, open up a few more driving lanes for Mbako because he can do that. But and then Renew and Ware are definitely more like back to the basket type guys. But yeah, the 3-point shots need to start falling at least a little bit. It can't be what are they, like 27% from 3 or something like that as a team. It's not great, whatever
Probably.
it is. But
it feels like that.
But yeah.
And I think the Mbako thing too is how late he joined Indiana or committed to him.
Yeah,
with
that
the
hurts
whole
too.
Filipowski thing coming back and Mark Mitchell for Duke. But it does feel like the cards are not being dealt in his favor right now.
I'm just gonna touch on Kansas real quick again. I know I kind of talked about McCullough earlier, but Jay Wright talked about this on CBS Sports at halftime. I think that was one of the most impressive wins of the year by a college basketball team to be in an environment. And I'm not saying in terms of just the way they played, but to be in an environment like Assembly Hall, being the number 2 team in the country, being down 13 with like 14 to go in the second half, and willing your way to a comeback, just playing a B- C+ game for Kansas and winning at Indiana, which obviously that was a highly anticipated game on that campus. That's just such an impressive win, and that just shows so much about Kansas and the team that they're going to be. I mean, I think I would pretty much lock them into the 1 to 2 line come March. They're going to be at the top of the Big 12. Just a very impressive win for Kansas. That's not a lot of teams could come back and win that game. I'd say there's probably 3 or 4 teams in the country right now that do what Kansas did on Saturday.
Yeah. But like you said, I don't know who that says more about, Kansas or IU, that Kansas played like a B- or C+ game and still came out with a win. But
yeah,
but regardless, hell of a win from Kansas, especially like you said in that environment, and also the situation. Like, it's one thing when a road team comes out hot and kind of just like takes away the underdog's hope from the beginning, and kind of cruises to a victory. But when you're kind of backs are against the wall in that second half, when you're down double digits, the fact that they were able to get everything figured out, especially with McCullough, the way he played, got to the line a bunch, like you said, Mike. A very impressive win for Kansas. But Mike, anything you got from the rest of those Saturday games?
No, man, I enjoyed watching them. Looking forward to many more Saturdays of bump.
Yeah, a great bump this weekend. But all right, with that, I guess let's move on to team of the week. Adam, we'll start with you.
Yeah, my team of the week this week is going to be the Kentucky Wildcats. We did touch on them earlier, but I think that was a very impressive win over a good UNC team. They continue to shoot the three well. Like I said, they've answered all the questions coming in of how are all these freshmen going to play? Calipari's going back his old ways. How is it going to work out? Because Calipari, for the most part, has been kind of on the hot seat, was what it felt like, as far as Kentucky basketball standards go. But in a new era where it feels like the number 1 transfer portal recruit is more valuable than the number 1 high school recruit, Kentucky's doing a very good job, and Cal's got the boys playing really well.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with – oh, are we going to – sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Mike.
I jumped the gun a little bit. But, yeah, that's a great pick. Kentucky's playing great. Freshmen are starting to play like a unit. And, yeah, Kentucky looks, like I said earlier, they look like they're Final Four good.
Yeah, that for sure. Mike, go ahead with yours.
I was going to say the Auburn Tigers. I know, I mean, they beat USC at home by 16, but that game had a huge audience, obviously, because of Bronny Jr. But, yeah, Auburn looks like they could be the 3rd best team in the SEC. I think them and Bama are going to kind of fight for that 3rd spot. But outside of Tennessee and Kentucky, I mean, Auburn's look great. I mean, they beat Indiana bad. They beat USC bad. They played Baylor very, very close, very tough on the first game of the season and shot the ball very well. This team looks really good. Great non-conference going 8-2. They have that. Where's that transfer from? It's like their leading scorer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, what's his name? I should have probably did some research on this, but I didn't. But yeah, Auburn's looked really good. I think they could be on the 4 or 5 line come March.
Yeah, I think like you said, dominating IU, getting a big win in a crazy environment with having Bronny in, and that's kind of going to be a thing with everyone that plays USC, is kind of having that extra little juice in the building, whether it's at USC or whether USC's on the road. With having playing against Bronny, do not envy his position with how he's kind of got to deal with that every game, just because of obviously who his dad is. But I wish he could have started from the beginning of the year and kind of been able to get into a little bit of a rhythm. but he's going to kind of go into almost into conference season with about like 3 or 4 games under his belt, something like that. So tough position for him to be in. But Auburn, like I said, they've been playing great as of late and really kind of vying to be in that top 4, maybe even top 3 of the SEC, kind of behind Tennessee and Kentucky. Feel like they've kind of separated themselves so far to this point at least. But yeah, my team of the week. I'm gonna stay in the state of Illinois, and not gonna take the Illini, but I'm gonna take the Chicago State Cougars. Big win over Northwestern. I think they might have won Saturday too. I don't know. I think I saw that they sent it to overtime or something. But regardless, the Cougars, known as one of the, oh yeah, they did. They beat Valpo by 1 that was a buzzer beater to win against Valpo. The Cougars, commonly known as one of, if not the worst teams in Division One, frequently showing up in Ken Palm at like 350 or lower, with a total of 362 teams. Come into Evanston, Welsh Ryan Arena, the Battle of Chicago, Northwestern versus Chicago State, and they come out with a win. So I got to give them props there, and then to back it up too with Valpo, a win over them on the road. I don't know the last time that Chicago State had 2 wins in a row. I can't imagine it. It's been any time recently, but I'm going to go with Chicago State, the Cougars, for my team of the week. Make Chicago State again for the Cougars. So shout out them.
Real quick, while we're talking about bad college basketball teams, did you guys see the highlights of the North Dakota State game where it's against Oak Hill Christian, I think?
Yeah.
That was bad.
The one kid, I think he was number 1, his jump shot just looked terrible. Like,
I don't know what that was, man.
I thought it was a joke when I first saw it. Like, I thought it was like a Key and Peele skit.
I don't know how that got approved or how that got scheduled or anything.
That's got to be like Bishop Sycamore 2.0, man. That's got to be.
That was just like the biggest waste of time for both teams. Like,
that was bad.
But it was very comedic for sure. But yeah. Should we do trivia?
Let's do some trivia.
Adam, you came up with the segment, so I'll let you introduce it.
Yeah. So, I'll just go out and say it. We're not professional podcasters. So we're trying to think of more ways to incorporate other stuff into the show, as far as not, just talk about box scores in different games. Obviously, we're still going to do that, but we're looking for more ways to kind of branch out a little bit. So I guess if you have any ideas, please tweet at us at the Empty Gym Pod or DM us on Instagram, anything like that. We would love to hear your feedback. If there's any ideas, we are open to them all. But what I have today for the boys is some Final Four, March Madness first team all tournament teams from previous years. Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give Jack and Mikey the year, and we're going to see if they can name all 5. They need hints. I'll give them to them, but you boys ready?
1 hint per person. Can we establish that rule?
Okay. Yeah. Do you want the 1 hint per person?
Per year or total?
Yeah, I don't know. What do you? It's up to you, Adam.
How many do you guys want to do? How many years?
Should do. Let's do 2. We're already at an hour.
Okay.
We still got a couple more things to do. So let's do 2. Let's
do you want me to give them to you guys collectively, or one person gets 1 year?
Not collectively. We're a team.
Collectively?
We're a team.
Okay.
Do this.
All right. Let's see. Let's go with the 2014.
2014. So that would have been Wisconsin beat Kentucky.
No, UConn beat Kentucky.
Kentucky beat Wisconsin in the Final Four. UConn beat Kentucky in the championship. So was that Shabazz?
Shabazz is 1.
Got to go Aaron Harrison.
No, not on here.
But Andrew.
The other Harrison?
No Harrison twins.
That was the year before D-Book and Anthony and Cat and that team.
Ryan Boatwright?
Ryan Boatwright is on there.
Boatwright, yeah. The Kaminsky or Decker?
Nope.
Huh. Who did Kentucky play? Or no, who did UConn play in the
Florida.
Final Four?
Scotty
Florida?
Lukin?
Nope. It is only UConn and Kentucky, guys. I'll get that one out there.
Only UConn.
That's all right.
So we got 2 UConn already.
Yeah, so you have Shabazz and Ryan Boatwright.
Shabazz and Ryan Boatwright. Kentucky.
Who was on that Kentucky team besides
James
Harrison?
James Young is on there.
I would not have gotten that.
Julius Randle?
Julius Randle is the 4th. There's one more.
Kentucky or probably UConn, right?
Probably a UConn guy.
This one is tough. I totally forgot about this guy.
It's a big center, right? I think it's a big center on UConn. I forget his name. It's not. Damn, I don't remember the name. Have you got anything?
This was before I was invested in the Big East.
He was a 6'9" forward.
Damn,
He last played for the Townsville Heat of the NBL 1 North in New Zealand.
That's a big help.
Yeah.
Did he play in the NBA at all?
I don't believe so. Oh, he did play for the Toronto Raptors at one point.
I don't know.
I got nothing.
I got nothing.
It is DeAndre Daniels.
I would have never got that.
Yeah,
No,
I
no.
wouldn't have gotten that either.
I would have never got that.
All right. What's the other? Yeah, we did that pretty quick. We can do 3. So we
Let's
can do 2 more.
Let's go with 2010.
Ooh.
Gordo
is 1.
Did Shelvin Mack.
Shelvin Mack is 2.
That's probably all the Butler guys. Singler probably had to be on
Singler's
it.
1.
Zubac.
No.
He didn't make it. Who was their guard?
Was it Shire?
Shire's on there. There's one more.
Shit, Shire. One more Duke guy or one more? Because we only got 3, right?
Yeah. No, you have 4. Singler, Gordon Hayward, Shelvin Mack, and Shire. There is one more guy, and he did play for Duke.
I was going to say not Matt Howard, but Matt Howard should have been on that. Justice for Matt Howard. Duke. So it wasn't what was that guy's name? Was it Zobek?
But the center?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was something like that.
I don't like how they do the old tournament team just the natty and the runner-up.
Yeah, most of these are natty runner-up, but there's a couple years where there's some Final Four guys that are in there. If you want a hint, I can give you a hint.
I'll take it.
Wasn't he? They had like a redhead shooter who could shoot. That's definitely him. I don't remember his name.
It's not. I'll give you a hint, though. He is currently on the Louisville Cardinals coaching staff.
Because he just left Duke.
That is correct.
He's a guard for him.
Correct.
Nolan Smith.
Nolan Smith is correct.
Is he a redhead?
No.
No.
No. Okay.
No.
Not white.
Didn't Duke had that ginger guy who could shoot? What was his name?
Are you thinking of Singler?
No, wasn't Singler.
Singler was blonde.
Ryan Kelly. He's not redhead, though.
I don't know. I remember when I used to play NCAA basketball 10, I would just pop threes in the corner with that guy. Maybe he's not even real. I don't know.
It's just a walk on, like a fake walk on that.
Yeah, it might have just been fake guy, but I thought they like mimicked players after. Maybe they didn't. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Let's do. Let's do one more.
All right. Let's go with 2017.
2017. So that would have been.
Oh, Gonzaga, Carolina. Okay.
Exactly. It's Marcus Page.
Joel Berry.
Joel Berry.
Karnowski.
No.
No Karnowski. Sabonis.
Zach Collins.
Zach Collins is in there. Karnowski is probably one of the most underrated and forgotten college basketball players, though. He was a beast.
He was so good.
Nigel Williams Goss.
Nigel Williams Goss, probably the most forgotten college basketball player.
I didn't forget Nigel.
Oh, I did. I forgot about him.
So is that 3 we got now?
Yeah, so you have Joel Berry, Nigel Williams Goss, and Zach Collins.
Man, they had some monsters on Carolina.
This Carolina team was really Kennedy Meeks? Yes.
So you got one left.
Bryce Johnson.
No. Not Bryce Johnson.
Was it Justin Jackson?
It is Justin Jackson.
Wow. What a run from Mike there.
Yeah, sorry. I kind of took
that was a solo right there.
Let's go. We're going
one
through
more.
this
One
quick.
more.
Let's do
Hobson,
one
you
more.
want to try the solo one?
I'll try a solo one because Mike pretty much
Okay.
took that one solo. I just gave him Zach Collins. So I get Mike for one phone a friend.
Okay, yeah.
Because I gave him one phone a friend.
Do you want to do 2019 or 2011?
Dogs were in 2011. I'll do them.
Okay, go 2011.
Kemba. Shelvin Mack make it again.
Shelvin Mack's on here.
Matt Howard had to be on this.
Matt Howard is on there.
Who else was on that UConn team? That was no, I'm thinking of Shabazz. LeBron made the Heat draft Shabazz and then left.
Yeah.
He's like, you gotta take this kid, and then he just dips and goes to Cleveland. Who was the other guard? All right, so I got Shelvin and Matt Howard. So that's probably all the dogs.
That is all the dogs.
Is there any Final Four guys on there? Or just
Yes.
All right, so Butler played in that Final Four. They played VCU. Probably no one from VCU, or maybe there is someone from VCU.
Maybe there is.
Dude, I don't know anyone from VCU.
From 2011.
Yeah, I know. This
is a
tough
little
one.
point guard. They had that short point guard who was good. I don't know his name. I have no clue.
The one with the headband, right? I think. I've never heard of this guy from VCU. He is from VCU, I'll give you that.
Oh, so there's someone from VCU. Yeah, I'm not getting that. I should have taken 2019. Why did I think I could do 2011?
If you want to go 2019, you can go try to rattle off 2019.
Yeah, you switch to 2019.
Okay, 2019.
Cut that.
I did get both dogs, so that's all that matters.
To finish off 2011, it was Jeremy Lamb from UConn and Jamie Skeen from VCU.
Yeah, Jeremy Lamb was who I was thinking of. Like him and I always confuse like Jeremy Lamb and Shabazz, which one was on which team. I always think that Shabazz was on 2011 and Jeremy Lamb was on 2014, but flip flop. But yeah, I'll go 2019.
By the way, 2011 March Madness, real quick. That was one of the best tournaments. This is why I'm here today, because of that tournament.
Because of the dogs?
Not just because of the dogs. I don't know, man. It just brings me. That was such a good tournament.
That was good.
Kemba going off. The
Kemba,
dogs,
yeah.
ECU with Shaka.
That VCU team was so fun to watch.
Because that was the first four, right?
Yeah, that was the first four.
And then they went from the first four to the Final Four in the first year, and everyone's like, "Oh wow, this is great. This is gonna happen like every year." It's like, no.
Yeah.
Now we get TCU and Arizona State in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, 2019 gotta be Kyle Guy,
Yep, there's one.
Ty Jerome,
Ty Jerome's 2.
DeAndre Hunter,
DeAndre Hunter's 3.
Texas Tech. Was that Italian point guard kid on there?
I don't believe he's Italian.
They had some Italian kid, didn't they?
Davide.
Yeah.
Davide. He was good. He was nasty.
So UVA beat Auburn, and Texas Tech beat
Gonzaga.
2019.
I want to say they did.
Or are you pretending to think like
No,
you don't know because there's a Gonzaga game.
Because I feel like I remember I was watching this in Dalton Kuhn's basement on my laptop. Actually, I feel like I remember because I was rooting very hard for Texas Tech because I am not a Gonzaga fan. Of course.
Maybe. Oh, who did Texas Tech beat in the Final Four?
Yeah.
Oh, Michigan State.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Did they beat Gonzaga though at some point in that tournament?
I think that was Elite Eight.
Okay.
So there's got to be a Texas Tech guy on here. This was Terrence Shannon and Kevin McCullough's freshman year. No, it was their senior year of high school.
One of the guys from Texas, they're both from Texas Tech. One of the guys from Texas Tech got drafted 5th overall to the Minnesota Timberwolves, I believe, and has since not panned out.
Come on, you could do it.
I wanted the Bulls to take this guy over Patrick Williams.
Yep, I did too. I remember wanting to take him, and I don't remember his name. Mike, phone a friend. You got anyone from Texas Tech?
I'm giving you like a hint. Jarrett Culver.
Jarrett Culver.
And then to go along with Jarrett Culver, there is Mike. Do you know this guy? One more Texas Tech guy?
Yeah, Matt Mooney.
Sharpshooter.
Matt
Mooney ran that tournament.
I forgot about Matt Mooney.
He was a dog. I think he was from Northern Kentucky too. I think he was a transfer.
Mike's
be wrong. I don't know.
What we learned from this is Mike's a lot better at that than I am.
Dude, I watch this stuff like religiously, dude. You have no idea.
I thought I did. Well, I did, but I'm older than you. My memory's not as good.
That's true. That's the point.
I can picture all of these guys, but I can't give you a name for the life of me.
I did learn a lot though. I relearned a lot of information looking at all these tournament teams though, which was super fun to do.
That was good. That was fun. We should do something like that. We should do something like that again.
We should just have a podcast for where an hour straight we just name random college basketball players within the last 10 years.
All right, let's start. Everybody name one random college basketball player.
I got one.
Go ahead, Mike.
Thomas Walkup.
Oh, that was a good one.
Boston. Dude popped out against West Virginia.
I got one.
I was prepared for that. I'm not gonna lie.
Tequil Cotton, Wichita State.
That's a good one.
Ooh.
Mike, you saying Thomas Walkup just took me straight to Pat Connaughton because when Notre Dame beat
Bonzi Colson.
Bonzi Colson, yeah.
Bonzi.
Beast.
I feel like I can't come up with one in particular, but then once someone says something, it just gives me a link. Effect.
Yeah. When I said Tequil Cotton, I thought of Grant Gibbs from Creighton.
Yeah.
And who was the big center that Wichita State had?
Oh my gosh.
Gregory Echenike was Creighton.
Was it the guy with the red specs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something Hall. It was something Hall.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know his first name though.
I think it was Carl Hall.
It was Carl Hall. That's
Carl
it.
Hall. Unreal, dude. Carl Hall, if you're listening to this, come on the empty gym. Let's talk shop.
Oh, speaking of guests, also before we had some questions. We'll move on to that after this.
Yeah.
But we did have some questions. I think all of them stemming from our biggest listener. But programming note, I haven't even told these guys yet. So this is live new information right away. Here? There was a little wager, a friendly wager, no money placed wager today, this afternoon, in Hinkle Fieldhouse, where a longtime enemy, short-time friend, and mentor of mine, John Diebler, and I came to have a little wager of 2 half-court shots. If he made one, I would have to go to class in full John Diebler Ohio State uniform, no hoodie and no sweatpants under the shorts or jersey in winter. But if he didn't, he had to come on the pod. Missed the first one short, second one in and out. So John Diebler, within the next couple weeks, will be coming on the Empty Gym podcast.
How about that?
Wait, I thought you had to make it.
He had to make it.
If he made Jack
he
was.
had to make it,
I would still love to see Jack Hobson wearing full John Diebler gear to class.
In the middle of winter.
In the middle of winter.
Yeah. So special guest John Diebler coming soon on the Empty Gym podcast. So hopefully that can get the viewers up from like 20 to maybe like 40. I know he doesn't have a whole lot of pull, but there's still some Ohio State guys. I saw a tweet, not to keep talking about one of my least favorite people of all time, but I saw a tweet last night of like an old score bug from like I guess it would have been like 2010 or something like that, when he played forever ago, ages, because John Diebler's very old. But there's a picture of Diebler on an ESPN like score bug thing that someone like college basketball classics or whatever posted on Twitter. So people haven't forgotten about the pride of Upper Sandusky, Ohio, John Diebler.
It's a shame that Mark Titus was not on that with his one rebound in the national championship or the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, people forget Mark Titus.
That video, did you see the video of him talking about that?
Yeah.
He was like, so the rebound itself wasn't that cool, but it was the way I chinned that thing.
Really fundamentals there.
Fundamental.
Yeah.
You got to get the ball and chin it right away.
For sure. Learn that back.
Probably thrilled.
Big time.
More of that.
Well, Mike, we'll move on to you with your segment. Got some questions for us.
Yeah. Let's get her going. Got to pull up the Twitter feed real quick. My bad on that. Yeah, we got a couple questions coming our way. We're not gonna say the username, but just know he's a big fan of this podcast. He has close ties to this podcast. The guy who asked the question, hell of a guy too. So he wants to know, last week we talked about the best coach so far, and he was kind of surprised that neither of me and Jack went with Coach Thad Matta of the Butler Bulldogs. And obviously, this is even more awkward for Jack, because if Thad's a listener, Thad can't be too happy that Hobby went with who'd you go with last week?
Chris Beard
over Thad. So he's curious about that.
I can confirm that Coach Mata has no idea that I have a podcast, but I can also heavily assume that he probably doesn't know what podcasts are, based on his knowledge of the social media world and this new media regime, new media industry that's been forming. So I'm not too worried about him finding out that I did not pick him. But to answer the question, to the user that asked it, I didn't want to be a homer. It's
conflict of interest too.
Conflict of interest. Who am I to say? Like, I'm around Coach Mata every day. I think he's one of, if not the best coaches in the country all the time. So I have a personal bias. I didn't want to pick him. I could have picked Brad Underwood too. I have a personal relationship of saying hi to him one time when he was at a tournament. I said, hey, big fan, season ticket holder. Can I get a picture? He's like, sure. And we talked about, I think it was like 2017, right after Illinois beat Mizzou in the bragging rights game, maybe 2018, something like that. But for our 5th one in a row, and he was like, thanks for coming out, thanks for supporting. And then obviously I have a close relationship with Coach Mata. As of, I think it was 2 or 3 days ago, he came up to me when I was grabbing Starburst out of the candy bag at practice and said, he's like, why every time I come over here, are you always over here grabbing Starburst? So close relationship with Coach Mata there.
So what was your answer to that question?
I don't know. I like Starburst. But
Yeah. Good answer. Good answer.
But yeah, Coach Mata.
Healthier carbs to grab rebounds, man.
You gotta get energy.
You gotta get in the healthy carbs.
But yeah, Coach Mata, I'll go ahead and say it right now, best coach in the country, funniest coach in the country by far. As one of the more, I'd say probably the most unintelligent and goofball managers that we have on our squad. He often comes to me with stuff, with quick quips to say of stuff going on in practice. So, because he knows that I'll get it, and I'll just laugh along too. I don't think I've ever not laughed at a Coach Mata joke, so I'm in good standing with him.
Nice.
So
good stats.
But yeah, Mike, you have no excuse. But
you're right. I don't have any excuse. Thad, well, actually, Hobby.
Give your public apology. Give your public apology to Thad Mata right now.
Thad, Coach Diebler, Coach Oden, the whole Butler basketball crew. I wanna apologize because the best coach in the country works the sidelines at Hinkle. All right, that's the bottom line. I messed up. You know, Tommy Lloyd had me excited with this Arizona squad, but I don't know. I don't think Coach Thad Mata is going into Lucas Oil, Banker's Life, and losing to the Boilermakers by 8. That's all I'm going to say. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Recency bias pick right there. And, you live and you learn.
Yeah. I think we have one more question from our.
We have one more question from someone. He might be the same person. He might be a different person. Nevertheless, he has one question. What is booty ball? Is that just an Underwood thing?
Booty ball, the term was popularized in Illinois circles last year when Jalen Pickett did it to us. Basically, it is a guard just posting up, pretty much just putting their butt on a guy from like the elbow extended on in, and just like a bigger guard that just posts up a smaller guard, basically. And just kind of like, there's no really offense to it. Like, there's cutting off the ball and stuff like that. But basically, you just put your guard in the low post if you have a little bit of a size advantage. Seen that a lot this year from Illinois with Marcus Domask in that low post area. Plethora of options to go from there. Could get a turnaround jumper. Could, like, with bigger guards that are good in the post. Like, you see Posh do it from time to time if he's got a matchup he likes. But where he's stronger than the guy who's guarding him, bigger than the guy who's guarding. He's not usually taller. He's only like 5'11", 6 foot, but he's usually a lot stronger than the guy guarding him. So that's common, a thing that you see with big guards where it's just a guard that's backing someone down in the post from basically like 15 feet out and just working their way in. Whereas a post traditionally just kind of catches it right around the block and can take like one dribble and make a move, but a guard will do it from like 15 feet out. So to the user, that is booty ball, and it's not just an Underwood thing. It is a common thing, but been more popularized between last year with Jalen Pickett doing it against Illinois, and now Marcus Domask doing it for Illinois, as well as Terrence Shannon Jr. But yeah,
that was very informative to me as well, because when I saw the user ask this question, I was very confused and perplexed on the question. So thanks, Jack, for clearing that up.
Yeah, when I saw that he said booty ball, on Twitter for the masses to see. I was like, oh my God, why would you tweet this? But that could be just the relationship that I have with the user. Maybe some secondhand embarrassment from that. But great question nonetheless.
Great question. Thank you for your questions.
Yeah, maybe next time we'll get more questions from.
We
from
did also
more
post
people.
this like 3 hours before we recorded,
Yeah.
but I think we could post it 5 days before, and we might get 2 questions again. But you never know.
Maybe we'll get a third. Maybe we'll get a
Maybe
third.
we'll get a
question.
third. We would
We
love
all-
to, like I said, love your feedback.
I think we also did come up with this idea like 4 hours before, and then
Yes.
got it posted 3 hours before. So
It's pretty efficient on our part.
Now we
yeah.
know.
Now we know.
Like
We'll
I said,
put-
we're not professional podcast hosts.
It's a low budget.
Low budget.
Yeah. But all right, those are some good questions. Should we get into shout outs to wrap it
Let's
up?
do some shout outs.
Adam, I'll let you go first with this one.
I got 2 shout outs. My first one is shout out AJ Brown and Kenneth Walker. I need 19 combined points from you guys tonight to take me to the championship at my fantasy football playoffs, one of my 3 leagues. I'm a very good manager of my fantasy football teams, but kind of in a pickle here. I need 19 combined points from AJ Brown and Kenneth Walker tonight on Monday Night Football, so looking forward to that. My second shout out also is football related. Shout out to the Carolina Panthers for just being awful this year. Just giving me and Jack especially some light at the end of the tunnel where we get to once again, hopefully, look forward to the number 1 pick. I thought we were, as Chicago Bears fans, Jack and I were talking about this pre-Cleveland Browns game. We were in a great position.
This was the part of the podcast that got cut off.
This was the part of the podcast that got cut out. So now they get to hear it. We were in a good spot. If we're looking at this before the Browns game, we were in a great spot. We just got to go into Cleveland, beat Cleveland. Then we have the Cardinals. Then we have the Falcons at home. And then we have the Green Bay Packers to probably decide our playoff hopes. And fortunately, that did not go how we wanted it to. Hail Mary got dropped, and we blew another fourth quarter 10-point lead. So now we're back in the dumps. But thanks for the Carolina Panthers for just being horrible this year.
Shout out the Panthers, man.
Shout out.
Tough one yesterday. Was watching that also in the Butler basketball offices with, again, John Diebler, who proceeded to laugh as I was on my knees, face in hands, watching that ball slip through Darnell Mooney's hands. But yeah.
Did you see what he said about it too? He's like, I think he said something along the lines of, if I was standing up, it would have been easier to catch it.
I feel like it wouldn't have been. I feel like
Yeah, no shit.
I feel like it would have been easier laying down because you're just like it just falls right into you. But
That was tough.
Who knows, man? Mike, just go ahead with your shout out.
All right, I know vibes are down right now. I'm
wearing all Chicago Bears apparel.
Yeah, I'm gonna shout out I'm gonna go back to college basketball and shout out the Mountain West Conference. 5 teams in the top 50 in the net. They look like they could probably not, because it's the Mountain West. It doesn't get the recognition it deserves. They could maybe get 6 teams into the NCAA tournament. A little ambitious, but I think they could for sure get 5. I mean, this conference has 4 teams right now with 1 loss or fewer, and one of those teams is in San Diego State. Mountain West has looked great. They beat really good Power 6 opponents too, or Power 5 opponents as well. Yeah, this is a strong conference. I think it's better than the Pac-12, to be honest, and might be better than the ACC all around. But probably not the ACC. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Definitely better than the Pac-12. Shout out Mountain West.
Mountain West.
Gritty,
Mountain West. Go ahead.
fun, electric basketball. Sorry,
Mountain West and the WCC are 2 of me and Mike's favorites to watch on Saturday nights, mostly because the games tip at like 11 o'clock Eastern time. So
I don't get to enjoy that anymore, which sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you get like New Mexico, Colorado State at like the pit.
I just miss it's already gone, but Pac-12 After Dark, that was so fun to watch. But now that I'm in Mountain Time Zone, I don't get to experience them like I used to when I was living in Central Time Zone.
Yeah, just
Take the trip, catch a game at the pit. Got it.
That is true. You're close to the pit.
I am close to the
pit. Take a visit down to New Mexico.
Shout out the pit.
Yeah, shout out the pit. But yeah, Mountain West always a fun conference to watch, and they got some good teams this year, so we'll see what they can do. My shout out, we've got pro football, we've got college basketball. I'm gonna go to the grassroots, high school basketball in the state of Illinois. The alma mater, the Morton Potters, 11-1, 4-0 in conference, I think. The boys are playing great. This is the first year of a new coach. I was a big anti-firing the last coach because he was my coach. So I had a special connection. I was like, hey, let's not fire this guy. But now the new coach is 11-1.
Did you voice your opinion?
They didn't care about my opinion, really. But the new coach is 11-1. So what kind of man would I be if I wouldn't be excited about this new coach a little bit? But also at the same time, my old coach is currently 9-0 and a top 10 ranked team in 2A. So I think we all benefited. We all benefited from this. So Potter's got a big game against another former coach of mine, Coach Brown, tomorrow night against East Peoria on the road. Going to the Raiders home gym. Can't remember what it's called, but Potter's with a real chance. This is the two teams tied for first in the middle line. Battling it out tomorrow. Going to be able to catch the second half after the Butler Georgetown game, which leads into my second shout out. But to wrap that one out, shout out the Morton Potters, top 10 ranked team in 3A, 11-1, 2 seed in the Pekin Holiday Tournament. So shout out the Potters and shout out Coach Zeller. To my second shout out Big East basketball. It is back tomorrow night in Hinkle Fieldhouse. The Georgetown Hoyas come into town. Will Jaden Epps be playing? We do not know. Rumor has it. I feel like I'm safe to say this rumor because we have like 10 people that listen to this. But rumor has it that Jaden Epps, we knew that he was not on the trip to Notre Dame, but they stayed out here. And apparently Jaden Epps' jersey was in the laundry at Hinkle yesterday. So we'll see his practice jersey. So we'll see. Maybe someone else was wearing his jersey. Maybe he's back, like he flew in separate. We don't know. But Jaden Epps might be playing tomorrow night, might not. We'll see. But yeah. Dogs Big East season is back starting tomorrow. 9-2 non-con. 20 games, as Coach Mata likes to say, live bullets are coming. Real bullets. So it all starts tomorrow at Hinkle Fieldhouse against the Georgetown Hoyas. But shout out Big East being back. And all conference play close to being back. But yeah, that's all I got. Anything you guys got to wrap it up?
That's it.
Successful episode.
All right. Well, as always, appreciate you guys listening. Next week is Christmas. We usually record on Monday nights and post them on Tuesdays. So Monday night next week is Christmas Day. So probably not going to be doing one that day. We'll see if we get one out later in the week at kind of a different day that week. If not, we'll be back the following Monday. We're back recording the following Monday, published the next Tuesday. But we'll just kind of play it by ear, see schedules and stuff. Obviously, family comes first, as always with the Empty Gym podcast. It's your family, your religion,
family and academics first,
and your academics and the Empty Gym podcast. But yeah, so we'll get that all figured out. But worst comes to worst, we'll see you in 2 weeks. But as always, appreciate you guys listening, and we'll catch you soon.
And Merry